Well, it's not the first time that the government has been trying to deal with this wage bill monster. And President Uhuru Kenyatta, before he became president, when he was the finance minister, he actually did try to cut the wage bill. And he tried this by ordering a new transport, or rather announcing a new transport policy for public servants and ministers. Let's have a look at our video wall here. In 2010, when Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, he banned the use of fuel guzzlers. And what he did is he replaced those fuel guzzlers with lesser consuming vehicles, which are basically the Volkswagen Passats. Those Volkswagen Passats have since disappeared, but they are the government, the ministers, the cabinet secretaries now, and all other government, high-ranking government officials are supposed to be using the lower CC vehicles. Now, the ministers were ordered to use those vehicles, as I talked about, and this was set to save at least 2 billion shillings a year on fuel and maintenance. Now, the proposed austerity measures would yield 2 billion shillings, and this was to be absorbed in development matters. Now, in January of 2014, this year, or 2013 rather, this is a mistake. In January of 2014, Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich announced more austerity measures, and these austerity measures were also supposed to save at least 10 billion shillings. Now, these 10 billion shillings was also to be used in development matters. Now, what happened? He limited the frequency of domestic and foreign travel. Now, you will notice that government officials had a tendency of flying outside the country for whatever reasons. He decided that they were going to limit the frequency of domestic and foreign travel. This is just one way of trying to save money, and regulating the use of business class by state officers. Whenever these state officers flew outside the country, it was a norm that they would use the business executive class when they were flying. That is very expensive. If you think of 30 people traveling, outside the country on a business ticket, it was very expensive, and this is what the cabinet secretary was trying to do. Foreign travel was limited to just a few state officials. Again, the number of people who are traveling outside the country was supposed to be reduced. This is yet to be seen. Reducing the number of hired cars in domestic travel. The government has a habit of instead of buying vehicles, the government has a habit of hiring vehicles or leasing vehicles. Those vehicles were supposed to the number of those vehicles was supposed to be cut significantly. Centralizing government advertising costs. Again, another measure to try and reduce the wage bill. Movement to save between 10 and 13 billion shillings. Now, this amount is enough to fund the building of the 13-kilometer outer ring road in Nairobi, being financed by the African Development Bank. And also, that money, the 10 to 13 billion shillings, is enough to promote 53,000 teachers. You can see what the cabinet secretary the government was trying to do here. 53,000 teachers. The Kenyan National Union of Teachers has been on the government's case so that we have enough teachers and well-remunerated teachers in the country. And that was just one way of trying to do that. Budget committee had directed that the Treasury should cut 1.3 billion shillings in spending. This is annual spending, 1.3 billion shillings. And the ministries under the new constitution, or the constitution rather, the current constitution now, the ministries had been reduced to 20 under the constitution from the open-ended. In the previous governments before the constitution was inaugurated, we could find that we have an open-ended number of ministries. In the last government, in the Grand Coalition government, I think we had 47 ministries, and that was just one way of trying to reduce the ballooning wage bill, because 47 ministers, you have permanent secretaries, you have assistant ministers, so it becomes a bit expensive to run a government of that size. The Abdikadir Mohammed Task Force proposes a reduction of parastatals. We are yet to see this happening again, but it is something that we will be watching as time continues and as the government takes more measures to reduce the wage bill.